if you take Australian region or Australian realm, this is a very interesting region because as far as Australia is considered, it is far away from all other continents. And sometimes we call Australia as an island continent because it is not as big as a continent, but it is much more larger than an island. So, and because of this, we sometimes call it as an island continent because it's all surrounded by sea on all sides. It has no land connection with any nearby continent or any other mainland or other land area. So because of these factors, Australia is sometimes known as island continent. Now we can see what are the major regions which are coming under the Australian realm. Here you can see that this realm include Australia, the entire Australia. You can see this is the entire Australia. This is the Australia. In addition to Australia, several nearby islands are also part of this Australian realm. Here you can see that island of New Guinea. See, this is the island of New Guinea. So it is very near to the Australia, almost near. It's only there is no land connection, but it's very close to each other. This island of this Papua New Guinea. There is a Papua New Guinea. There is a New Guinea, island of New Guinea. Then another region that is included in the Australian realm is the eastern part of Indonesian archipelago, especially the island of Sulawesi and Moluccas Island and islands of Lombok, Sumbawa, Sumba, Flores, Timor, and these islands are sometimes known as Lesser Sundas. So, in addition to Australia and New Guinea, you can see several other islands, smaller islands here. Here, between this Papua New Guinea and the Borneo and Sulawesi, there are a lot of smaller islands. This region is known by the name, and these islands are known by the name Moluccas Island. In Indonesia, they use Maluccas, but sometimes it is known as Moluccas Island, also known as Maluccas Island. So these are the islands which are part of the Australian realm. So here we can see the entire Australia is included, New Guinea is included, Moluccas Islands, a lot of smaller islands here which are part of Indonesia are also included in the Australian realm. Then in addition to that, this Australian realm also includes certain Pacific island groups, including Bismarck Archipelago. Here you can see that this is the somewhere here. This is the Bismarck Archipelago. Here you can see that. This is the above the Papua New Guinea. You can see the Bismarck Archipelago. Then we can also see the Solomon Islands. Here you can see the Solomon Islands. Then comes the Vanuatu. These are and New Caledonia. So Vanuatu is here and also New Caledonia is also here. So these are all smaller islands. One interesting thing about this these three Solomon Islands, Vanuatu and New Caledonia, is that and Australia and Antarctica were together for a long time. And Australia was a part of Gondwana land. Later, Australia split from the Gondwana land and migrated south or to the southeast direction. But during that time, the Solomon Islands and Vanuatu or other small like Bismarck Islands, they were not part of Australia. This nearness with Australia is a recent development. But in the ancient history of the earth, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu were near to the Australian continent. So that is another interesting thing about the Australian realm. So going to the geographical region or geographical limits, it includes the Australia. Then it also includes the New Guinea. Then several smaller islands in the Moluccan Islands are there. Then certain Pacific islands like Bismarck, Vanuatu, Solomon Islands and New Caledonia. In addition to this New Zealand is also part of Australian realm. So New Zealand is little far away from the Australia. So still it is considered to be the an island, in a part of the Australian region. Sometimes we recently scientists have developed another realm, that is Oceania realm, and these smaller islands were actually become part of Oceania realm. But in your textbook that is not included. So we still consider only 6 realms, but there are actually 8 realms. One is Oceania realm, other is the Antarctic realm. Now here you can see a smaller island. This is also known by the name. This is also part of Australia, but it's an island, and that is known by the name Tasmania. Tasmania. This is in the southern part of Australia. So this is also it's a somewhat bigger island, but still it is that island is known by the name Tasmania. Now we will see what are the physical. So these are the geographical limits of the Australian region. Now let's see what are the physical features of Australia. These are the main physical features which we have to understand. The first thing is that the northern part of Australia is tropical. This is the first. What is a northern part? This portion of the Australia is known as the northern part. Here you can see that. Here there is a very good map, and this map shows the ecoregions of Australian realm. Ecoregions means ecological regions of Australian realm. Now that is a color map, and the dark green portion, this dark green portion are showing tropical and subtropical broadleaf forest. So here you can see the New Guinea and certain portions of eastern portion of Australia, and these Moluccan islands are all having a subtropical and tropical broadleaf. Broadleaf means like the forest, the trees that we are finding here. They are not narrow. If you take a coniferous forest, their leaves are is very narrow leaves. But unlike the coniferous trees, the trees present in the tropical regions have a wider or broader leaf. So that is why they are included as in the tropical moist broadleaf forest. Now the second region that you can see is a light brown region. This is the light brown region. There also we can find tropical and subtropical broadleaf forests. So here it is more thicker forests are there because they are more closer to the equator, because of the presence of heavy rainfall and high sunlight. This region supports a very rich animal as well as the plant life. Now third region is the yellow colored region. This is the yellow colored region of the Australia, and it consists of tropical and subtropical grasslands. So if you look at the map of Australia, in this region, here there is one city known by the name Darwin. Darwin is an important city in Australia, and that is a part of the latest Australian continent. Countries divided into 5 or 6 major states, and here there is a major state. The state lies here is the Northern Territory, and the capital of the Northern Territory is the Darwin, and Darwin is here. So it is a now if you look at the Australia has a very interesting climate. Each part of Australia is widely differing in terms of climate. If you take the northern part of Australia, the northern part of Australia is basically dry. Now that is a yellow subtropical grassland and savannas as well as shrublands. There are not thick forests are not present here, as in the case of this New Guinea or the Moluccan Islands. Here we can only see shrublands or grassland or savannas, but this region is quite dry also. Now another region, there is the green region. See, this is the green region, this is the green region. If you know, those who know about the Australia, there is one major city here. That city is known by the name Sydney. Sydney is located in the temperate, broadleaf as well as mixed forest. So if you go to the Sydney, the climate of Sydney is a temperate climate. Mostly if you check the temperature of Sydney, it will be between 15 degree and 20 degree. So that is a temperate climate. Then broadleaf. Unlike there are different types of temperate forest. Some temperate forest will be having coniferous forest, but here it is broadleaf, almost like the trees of our area. Then mixed forest. Mixed forest means some partially broadleaf and partially coniferous. That may be the meaning of the word mixed forest. Then another major city here is the Brisbane. So these are there are few major cities. One is Darwin here, there is Brisbane here, and there is another Sydney is here, and there is Adelaide is here, and Melbourne is here. These are the major. Then Perth is here. These are the 5 major cities of Australia, and most of the Australian people are living in and around these cities. The inside of the Australia is quite dry. I will come to that. So the light green is a temperate grassland. Then this is the temperate grassland. So these are the temperate grasslands here. In this New Zealand also here we can find the temperate grassland. Then light blue. There are certain light blue region. These are the light blue region. They are flooded grassland and savanna. They are also grassland. So interior on the eastern side of Australia we can find grasslands are here. Then light purple are montane grassland as well as shrublands. So this area we can find temperate broadleaf forest. Inside is basically grassland, but some not very dry grassland, but wet grassland. Then brown region. Now going to the brown region, this is the brown region. They have a Mediterranean forest. If you take the eastern and the western portion of Australia, that is there is a major city known as Perth. Perth is a major city here. If you go to that region, as well as if you go to this region, and this state here is the southern Australia. There is a major city here, Melbourne. Melbourne is a major city. Then here also another major city is there, Adelaide. So these are the 3 major cities, and all these 3 major cities are experiencing what is called a Mediterranean climate. Mediterranean climate is originally present in the Mediterranean Sea. The regions around the Mediterranean Sea are having somewhat warm climate. So similar climate is also present here. That is why this is known as a Mediterranean forest and woodland, as well as scrub forest. Scrub forest means thorny forest. So when not very tall trees are there, the forest won't be thick. If you go to most of the areas in India, we cannot see forests like as we see in Kerala. The forest of Madhya Pradesh or forest of Andhra Pradesh or Maharashtra are all different from the forest that we are finding. We have a thicker forest, thick forest. Now there is another area, there is a beach. See, beach, this is the area, this white colored portion is a beach, and that is basically desert and xeric subland or desert like subland. So if you look at the Australia, major portion of the Australia, that is nearly 2/3 of the Australia, or nearly 60% of the Australia or 70% of the Australia is actually desert. Now it's very difficult to live in this desert region. That is why most of the people of the Australia are living in the peripheral regions of the Australia. There is a population here, and there is a population here, and there in Melbourne also there is a population. Then Perth, Brisbane. Then here there is a city known by the name Cairns. Then here there is another major city known by the name Darwin. So these are the major cities. So in and around these major cities, most of the people of Australia are living. Now, if you take the population of the Australia, it is only having the population of Kerala, around 3.5 crore. That is roughly around equal to that. So that is the population. Not very much, not many people are living in Australia. So this is the ecological regions of the Australia. So going the physical features, the northern part is tropical. That means it has a tropical climate. See here you can see that the northern part is tropical. And below the northern part, because that region, this above region is very closer to the equator. That is why that is experiencing a tropical climate. Whereas the middle portion is experiencing a subtropical climate. Then and the lower portion is mostly temperate. So most of the major cities of Australia are therefore experiencing a temperate climate. So these are here you can find the tropical forest of the Australia. Then these are the grasslands of Australia. Then one more here also you can find the grass savannas. So it will be open grasslands with some intervening trees will be there. Then these are the desert of Australia. So these are the ecological features or ecological regions of the Australian realm. Then we will see the southern part is temperate. If you look at that, this is the southern, most of the southern portion. By temperate climate, we basically mean a climate in which most of the time temperature will be below 20 degrees centigrade. If it is above 20 degrees centigrade, we call it by the name tropical climate. So in the case of Australia, in most of the regions of Australia, especially in the southern portion of the Australia, are experiencing what we call a temperate climate, because the temperature will be around 15 degree or between 10 and 20 degree. That will be the temperature. And one interesting thing about the Australia is that in Australia there is no snow. It is just like the climate that you are seeing in a Kodaikanal or in a Munnar. There is no snow, but the climate will be around below 20 degrees centigrade. So Australia, therefore, that is why Australia is generally considered to be having a pleasant climate. Then next region is that the southern part is already temperate. Then interior of the Australia. If you take the interior of the Australia, we have already seen that this is the desert region. Most portion of the Australia, because crossing this desert is not easy. Because if you want to cross this desert, you have to take insurance. People who are living in Australia have told me that if you want to go through the roads in the passing through the desert, you should take a insurance, because there will not be any electricity. There is no mobile range. There will be nothing. If you are lost in the desert, there is great chance that you may be dead. So because of that, only with an insurance, the authorities will allow to cross through a desert region. So the deserts of Australia are very wide, very large, and also very dry. So this is the peculiarity of the desert. So we can see that a large portion of the Australia is actually formed of desert. Then if you take the Eastern Australia, the Eastern Australia is covered with a lush green forest. Here you can see that this is the Eastern Australia. So here it is the green, most is a lush green forest. Now if you look at that, here there are a lot of major cities. That way most of the population of the Australia are restricted to the eastern portion, because that eastern portion is quite inhabitable. And usually you might have heard about flooding in Australia, especially flooding in the Sydney region. And this because this region experiences heavy rainfall. And because of that, there will be frequent flooding in the eastern portion of the Australia. Then the Western Australia is a desert, and there are grasslands in the middle. Here you can see that this is the Western region. This Western region, there is nothing here. And then there are no major cities here. If you check the Google map, you will get an idea about how the country of the Australia is, the nature of the country of the Australia. You will get some good idea regarding that. If you look at this area, there are only very few roads are there. Some interstate highways are there. Other than that, there is nothing in this region. There is the city known as I don't know. I am not able to get. There is one one small city in the middle of the desert. Other than that, there is nothing in the desert regions of the Australia. Now here you can see the major desert. See, these are the little sandy desert, the Great Victoria Desert, then the Simon Desert, then other great sandy desert. Then another desert is the Tanami Desert, Gibson Desert. So these are the major deserts of the Australian region. Now you see the Western Australia is called the western part of Australia is known as the Western, and because most of the time these deserts are located in the western part of a portion of a continent. Not only in the case of Australia, if you look at the Africa, you see it is in the western portion two major desert like Sahara Desert as well as Kalahari Desert. You take India, it is on the western portion that we are finding the what we call the Thar Desert. You go to North America, it is on the western side. We can find two major deserts. One is California Desert, then there is Nevada Desert. You take South America, there is Atacama Desert is there. That is also on the western side. So it is because of this rotation of the earth from west to east. Where the deserts are always located on the western portion of a major continent. So these are the major ecological features of the Australian realm. So now we will come to the what we call the bio sub-regions of Australia. Now going to the Australia, we can see that there are four major sub-regions. These sub-regions are Austromalayan sub-region, Australian sub-region, Polynesian sub-region, and New Zealand sub-region. So if you take the Austromalayan sub-region, this Austromalayan sub-region basically consists of the islands of Malayan archipelago. What are the islands of Malayan archipelago? Here you can see that here there are a lot of islands are there. This region is known as Austro-Malayan region because this Indonesia is also considered as a Malayan archipelago because Malaysia is is near to that, and almost all the islands around this Malaysia are considered as part of Malayan archipelago. Archipelago means a group of islands. So it is belonging to the Malayan archipelago. Most of the islands are there. So one region, the northern region of the Australian realm is the Malayan archipelago, which comprises the Moluccan Islands, New Guinea, but the Australian mainland is not included. So the northern region of if you take the northern region of the Australian region is mainly consists of islands like Malayan archipelago. We can see Solomon Islands, New Guinea, Bismarck Islands. So several smaller islands are there. Then second region is the Australian region. If you look at the Australian region, that is Australian sub-region, there are two regions here. One is the mainland Australia. This is the mainland. Then below on the southern side there is a smaller island. That island is known as Tasmania. So Tasmania is a very cold place. That is the coldest region in Australia. If the temperature here is 15-degree average temperature of a Melbourne, if it is 15-degree, and now the temperature here will be below, most of the time below less than 10-degree, so around 5-degree or 10-degree. So this is it is more temperate because it's more towards the southern side. The climate of Tasmania is more temperate than the climate of Melbourne or Adelaide. So that is the features of the second region, that is the Australian sub-region. Then we can see that there are Polynesian sub-region, the islands of Polynesia and the Sandwich Island. Here we will come back to the map again. And there is a Polynesia. This is the Polynesia. So here there can find different types of fish here. one is Indonesia, then Melanesia, then Micronesia, and Polynesia. And in the case of islands of Polynesia, we can find there are very smaller islands like Hawaii. Hawaii is actually a state of USA. It's a, even though it is an island country, it is a state of US. Then Tuvalu, it's a very small island. Then Samoa, Tonga. These are all very smaller islands, and many of these islands are either occupied by America, New Zealand, or France, or British, because during the colonial period they occupied these islands, and because their population is very small, and because of the power of these major countries, they are still keeping these major islands as their own. Their part, either completely their own part or partially under their control. So Polynesian region is coming into this region. Then there is Micronesia. Micronesia is another. Then that mainly consists of Fiji, then Vanuatu, then Solomon Islands, and Papua New Guinea. These are the regions which are coming into the Melanesia. So the third sub-region is known by the name Polynesian sub-region. In this Polynesian sub-region, it consists of several smaller islands, like in the islands in the Polynesia, as I already told you. Then the fourth sub-region is the New Zealand sub-region. Now in the case of New Zealand sub-region, here you can see the nature of the New Zealand sub-region. It is located very far from the mainland of the continent of Australia. I think the distance between this Australia and the New Zealand may be more than 1,000 kilometers. Now if you go in the flight, it is more than 1 hour. So it will be more than 1,000 kilometers. And New Zealand is basically consists of two major islands. One is a northern island and other is a south island. These are the two major islands. And along with these two major islands, there are a lot of small islands like Auckland Islands, Antipode Islands, Campbell Islands, Bounty Islands, Chatham Islands, then Kermadec Islands. So these are the small islands which are becoming part of the New Zealand, and New Zealand is also the a part of the Australian realm. So going to the Australian realm, we can find four major regions. One is the Austromalian region in this area. Second is the Australian region, and third is the Polynesian region, consists of very smaller islands. And fourth one is the New Zealand region, and in this of New Zealand region, it only the climate of the New Zealand region is completely different from the climate of the Australia. If you have relatives in Australia or New Zealand, you can talk to them. They will say that in the case of New Zealand, it is almost windy. Most of the time, there are strong winds. In your geography text in high school classes, you might have studied about one phenomenon on the roaring 40s, because it is located in the 40-degree latitude. In the 40-degree latitude, there are strong winds, and these winds are sometimes known by the roaring 40s, and that is because of the 40-degree latitude. They are known by the name roaring 40s. That is why the people always say that the New Zealand is quite windy. Most of the time it is quite windy, and because of the strong winds coming along with this roaring 40s. So these are the four major sub-regions of the Australian region. Now see, here also you can find another picture of the Polynesian region, then Micronesia, Melanesia. So we should have some idea. But nowadays, in the recent classification, this Polynesian region and Melanesia are actually becoming part of another realm known by the name Oceania realm, and Australia and Australia and so few other neighboring islands are only included in the Australian realm. So the older classification that which we are still following, the Australian realm consists of Oceania, the Polynesian islands, and also the New Zealand islands. So this is the world map. Here you can see the Vanuatu. This is the then here the major deserts are showing here. There is a one important mountain range in the eastern portion of the Australia. That is known by the Great Dividing Range. That is known by the Great Dividing Range. And here you can see the most of the Australia are formed of desert. The deserts of Australia, Great Desert, Great Victoria Desert, Gibson Desert, Great Sandy Desert, and Great Artesian. And these are the major desert and the major land. Here this region is mostly formed of grassland. Here there are some forests. Here also this area is mostly formed of desert, and in the south also we can find few forests are there.